Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown, our strategy edition. That's right. Every week, Steve and I, my sibling, go through and talk about different best ball strategies that help us in the live drafts. So before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. As you can see, just 4 more subs. We're doing a big $500 giveaway party for 500 subs. So be sure to subscribe or tell a friend if you haven't already. And today, Steve and I are talking about the top 10 players that we feel are still too undervalued in big board drafts. That means we feel their ADPs are too low. We're drafting a lot of them. So Steve, we're going to do 1 quarterback each, 1 running back each, 1 wide receiver each, 1 tight end each, and 1 wild card each. And we'll kind of mention honorable mentions in each too. So you're regularly getting more than 10, but these are top 10 undervalued players. Steve, how's it going? And, are you ready to talk some undervalued players? These are guys that you've probably seen both of us draft a lot in our live drafts.
Yeah, no, ready to talk about it. And I think this is where you can really identifying these types of guys can be a real way to add value to your team and your portfolio.
Absolutely. No, perfectly well said. We're obviously, nobody's going to be always right. But we feel like we're a lot more right than we're wrong. And especially finding those undervalued guys that massively outperform their ADP are so key in best ball. Our hero last year, Steve and I both were in the finals, and we both had Zach Ertz, and we both got Zach Ertz. Last round of respective drafts? You were in the big board. I was in the Bulldog finals, and Zach Ertz was our week 17 hero. And these guys can make a massive impact, whether it's guys like Ricky Pearsall last year for just a week or a couple of weeks, but like a massive week 17, or they're just like a glue guy throughout the season, or an advanced rate piece, or a playoff, hero, whatever it is. There are these undervalued guys that are key. Now, they're going to come from different parts of the draft. Could be even early guys that are still going too late, in our opinion, mid-round guys that are going too late, or some late round guys. Because again, check out, we just did a tight end show talking about late round tight end, mid to late round tight ends we like. Earlier in the draft season, we did a quarterback show, mid to late round quarterbacks we really like. So you'll hear some of these names, but this time we're just kind of looking at the whole board and who should be still going higher. Oh, and by the way, one other note, we're not including rookies in this because Steve and I have several shows on the channel about rookie quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. And I'm sure we'll probably do more because we are from today, 4 weeks from the NFL draft. And then, of course, after the NFL draft, we'll do it all over again and talk about these rookies and their landing spots. So we'll give a lot. We have given a lot. We will give a lot of attention to these rookies. And we certainly do in live drafts and our sibling showdowns because, Steve, we both love drafting rookie running backs and tight ends a lot this year, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're not including rookies. Who is your favorite undervalued quarterback? And we'll each pick one.
I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. Currently, I think he's going as quarterback 16. We saw just 2 years ago, he was quarterback 4 or 5. So right there, you're just getting a lot of value. And his offense coordinator then is now his head coach. He's got CeeDee Lamb. He's got good tight ends. Jalen Tolbert's a solid option. They're likely to add a receiver early in the draft. So I just think there's a lot of upside potential there. And to get whether he's your QB1 or your QB2, to a guy who is legitimate, not just top 10, but top 5 quarterback upside is just some tremendous value.
Yeah, as you can see, he's actually
quarterback 17. Sorry,
Justin Fields just jumped him, and so he's quarterback 17, ADP 123. As you can see, I have 15% of him, and I'm honestly fine getting more of him because I do think he's way too undervalued. You said it perfectly. He was just quarterback 5 2 years ago, and they're likely adding weapons one way or another through this draft. So I like that a lot. Mine quarterback is right next to him. Quarterback 15, ADP of 119, Drake May, but we have seen him in multiple drafts going in the 120s. I think that because there wasn't a big signing from the jump of free agency, and then he just got Stephon Diggs signed, that, people aren't excited about stacking him up because it's really now just Diggs. You could go Hunter Henry later. His other options are not great, likely going to be replaced in this draft. Patriots, not great at drafting receivers. Hopefully they nail it this year. Would be really nice if they got Travis Hunter at pick number 4 and used as a lot of receiver because if you've watched this channel, Steve and I definitely like Travis Hunter and think the risk reward is worth the risk and think he'll be used as a receiver. So I hope Travis Hunter lands with him too. He has Diggs now. He had no design rushes last year. He now has Josh McDaniel as his offensive coordinator. I think they're going to use him creatively on the ground more, on the ground near the end zone. I mean, he's a big-bodied guy, incredibly athletic. He was impressive. He did so much with literally nothing, on the offensive line, weapons. They've addressed some offensive line. They likely will do more so in the draft. You know, they've addressed the weapons a little bit. They're going to definitely do more so in the draft. And so I think with the offensive coordinator upgrade and upgrades and his line and weapons, this is a guy that has that, quarterback, I don't know, 5 to 7, top 5 to 7 upside, because he has that rushing ability that Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix in his same draft class do, not like Jaden Daniels obviously put up maybe the sheer amount of rushing yards, but that rushing floor is going to help that floor ceiling combo for Drake May. And as you can see, I have 26%, and I really don't care where I end up, as I want to be over 25%. I really am so bullish on Drake May this year. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I still want to see them address the offensive line a little bit more and get more weapons, but he showed so many flashes last year, and he's definitely gotten an offense coordinator upgrade. The offensive line, even they've done very little, is upgraded with guys like Morgan Moses and Garrett Bradbury.
Right.
And then the weapons are upgraded just with Steph Diggs and Matt Collins. So those areas can improve more. But like you said, he had over 400 yards rushing last year with no design runs. Like, what happens if they start designing some runs and just more games? He also didn't play the first handful of games. So, he easily could be a guy, kind of like Hurts and Jaden Daniels and Lamar in that 700-800 plus range of yards. That's a lot of points right there. And he's the
and
big
several
body.
More rushing touchdowns potentially too.
Yeah, he's the big body that, I don't know if he does what like Hurts and Allen do of 10 plus, but if he gets 8 rushing touchdowns, 700 yards, I mean, right there, you're just talking about so many points, even before he throws a football.
Exactly.
And that's his best trait.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I was so impressed with what he did with literally nothing around him last year. It was impressive. So he's one that he's going to be exciting to watch this year, I think. So, and I'm drafting like that will be the case. So, all right, Steve, your favorite undervalued running back.
So my favorite undervalued running back is I'm going to go with the guy who I know some people would say is a little older, but Alvin Kamara. If you look, he finished in total points for the entire year, despite missing the last 3.5 games. He finished 10th in total points. In terms of points per game, he finished 6th in points per game, 16.5, right between Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs. You're taking Taylor and Jacobs in the second round, maybe the turn at the third for Jacobs, and you're getting Kamara at around pick 60. If not slightly later. I see him definitely fall a little bit sometimes. So, you're just getting multiple round upside there. And Kellen Moore, creative play caller, offensive line is better than people think. And last year was so bad with everyone getting injured, offensive lineman, Carr, everything. And in fact, his biggest threat last year was Taysom Hill vulturing him. He's unfortunately injured and out. So I just think Kamara, it's still got it. And especially from a points per game standpoint, we saw that the year before, points per game standpoint, I think he finished like 12th. So you're getting enough value here as him going as RB19.
Yeah. I definitely need to take more of them. I think because I like the rookies around him. I like Kenneth Walker a lot. I haven't taken enough, but I definitely do need to take more of him. I'm going to go with a guy in his draft class who is not a late round guy. He's not a mid round guy. He's an early guy, but this was the running back 1-2 years ago. Obviously we got really duped last year with the injury situation. Massive risk here with Christian McCaffrey for sure. But if you're willing to take that risk, he easily, I think, could still be in that running back, 1, 2, or 3 mix. I still believe it's there, and he's one that I don't want to doubt. Same draft class, by the way. And quite honestly, that draft class, we're talking about a running back draft class this year in 25 that looks to be ridiculous, both of, raw talent on day 1 and 2, and then depth. And we saw that in the 2017 draft, and Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, both 2017. And then other guys that were drafting early and mid rounds And then late rounds, early mid rounds, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Aaron Jones, and Austin Eckler was an undrafted free agent that year.
Yeah.
So quite a draft class. Hopefully we get another 2017 running back draft class with this very exciting running back class in 25. But my point is, just like you still believe in Kamara, I still believe in McCaffrey in the same offense that we've seen him have massive success. We just need him to be healthy, really. We just need him in the offensive line and the offense to stay relatively healthy. Everything, talk about going wrong. Everything went wrong for the 49ers last year from a health standpoint. I mean, and even like what happened to guys personally and everything, it just couldn't have gone more wrong for the 49ers. So I know they lost pieces, but a lot of the pieces they lost are on defense. That makes me like offensive weapons even more. So, I don't know. I mean, was there many offensive line? I know the line's getting older,
but was there many? A depth piece, but nothing significant
on the line. Yeah. I was gonna say that's where I'm concerned. I mean, I know that, again, quite honestly, just like we saw the Bengals last year, and you kind of probably want to target the same thing this year at the Bengals. Bengals defense is a weakness. Well, then I want to target the offense, because guess what? They're going to have to be wheels up. And Christian McCaffrey is not a guy that gets scripted out of games because they're down or something like that. So if the defense has any issues, quite honestly, I think they're going to lean on a guy like Christian McCaffrey. We saw when he came back, they tried to. He wasn't healthy. So it's all about health for this one. ADP of 14, but you see him go 15, 16, 17, even as far as 18 sometimes. I have a lot of shares of him because I'm taking him in all those situations that he falls. Sometimes I'm taking him around the turn, but he just falls so often that I like him. You're getting like a top receiver in mid to late round one, and then you pair him with McCaffrey, or maybe you do get two running backs to start. It feels really good to me. So I'm going to take the risk. I know it's risky, but I'm going to take the risk. So, by the way, I wanted to mention honorable mentions, and one of these will each be our wild card, because we're each picking one quarterback, one running back, one receiver, one tight end, one wild card. That's how we get top 10 undervalued. So we did Dak Prescott, to recap. Dak Prescott, Drake May as our undervalued quarterbacks. Our honorable mentions were Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence. And I'll mention a wild card for this. I think Najee is correcting to where he should be, but with the Chargers, behind that offensive line, he definitely was a value. He's now ADP 20. So, there is that where I think you can still be willing to take him higher, in the 70s is what I'm saying, and not just look at what his ADP is. Because I think Najee Harris is set for, at least the 1A minimum for a very, very good situation. I don't see the Chargers drafting in a running back round one, most likely. So, so that cover. And then, so running backs, Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. So that takes us to receivers. Steve, who is your receiver? Well, I know who he is, but let's tell the folks.
My guy is Adam Thielen, and it's just a pure value play. Last 2 years, in terms of points per game, half point PPR, he finished tied for 26 and 31. And he's going, let's see where he's at now. Looks like wide receiver 50.
Oh, sorry. 68.
68, sorry.
68, ADP 159.
Yeah. And, that to me is just way too low. The Carolina offense is actually looking better. In fact, competition has gotten less. No Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker. They just don't scare me. David Moore, none of those guys scare me. Thielen and Bryce Young have a nice little, connection going. And I just think that if he stays healthy this year, that's going to pay off. And he was one of the guys you wanted down the stretch and in the playoffs last year, because he was very, very good. And
this is similar to McCaffrey. Honestly, it's like, if he stays healthy, he's going to be a value, basically.
Absolutely crush that. And
I think people are grossed out by his age. People are grossed out by his age and, could he get injured and that kind of stuff? Sure. But like, for where you're taking him, there's not a risk, McCaffrey, there's a risk. With Adam Thielen, there's not a risk. It's people are grossed out by the age, but just look at what they did. They even kind of reworked his contract for this year to kind of, right? I mean, so.
Oh, absolutely. And even, and keep in mind, Carolina, the first two games last year were so bad. They benched Bryce Young. And then in the first game with Andy Dalton, he actually has 11-point game, and then he gets injured in that game. So, and he doesn't come back until after the bye. And, despite all of that, in terms of total points, he finishes wide receiver 51 despite missing 7 games.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But what was he points per game again?
He was 26. So my point is, even with the injury, you'd be getting value on where he's being drafted currently.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And that is what's key. I think some people sometimes, yes, you need to factor age, but it's like, you need to factor age especially when you're seeing the drop off, when you're seeing like a Travis Kelce, we've seen the drop off for 2 years now. You've seen the drop off, and then you combine that with the age. Yikes. Okay. I'm a little concerned. You haven't really seen the drop off with Adam Thielen. He's still been like a hero for the Panthers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my pick, I because of you, and you may have started the Adam Thielen fan club, I'm not sure, but no, I have a ton of exposure to Adam Thielen as well. I've taken him in some bigger boards, stuff like that, because he just feels like that glue piece that can help me take shots on like Travis Hunter and that kind of stuff. So again, just like McCaffrey, just need him to stay healthy. Okay, mine is going to be a guy that I honestly need more exposure to. And he's from an offense I really like. ADP 57, wide receiver 32, Chris Godwin. Where was he, Steve, before he got injured last year? He was wide receiver what before his injury?
Before his injury, I have to look. He tied for wide receiver 11 in terms of points per game.
Okay, that's why I thought he was like in the top 12 or something like that for points per game before. So yeah, offense we really like, attached to a quarterback we really like in Baker. And again, it's just, if you look at the guys he's going behind, I feel better about him than I honestly do Olave and the injury issues. I like Sutton and Addison and Tet, and but there's just, I just think Godwin is attached to an offense we want access to. So I honestly need to get more myself. Because I was waiting to see what he was doing in free agency, and now he's back with the Bucs. We did a whole short on it. That we absolutely love the situation for Chris Godwin, and I need to be drafting more of him. I don't think there's a huge injury concern, coming back from injury concern, as there are coming back from other types of injuries. I mean, look at Rashee Rice, an injury that people don't even understand what it is, basically, and how it's like to come back from the type of injury he has. Also going to be getting suspended, going at ADP 47 and wide receiver 26. Sorry, give me the discount on Chris Godwin with ADP 57 and wide receiver 32. So Chris Godwin is mine. So to recap so far, Dak Prescott, Drake May, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Adam Thielen, Chris Godwin. That takes us to tight end. Steve, who is your tight end undervalued guy?
Did you want to give the honorable
mention? Yes. Thank you. Because we had a lot. Thank you. We wrote down a lot of honorable mention, both the 49er receivers, and I mean the ones that aren't at risk of being traded. And that is obviously Ricky Pearsall. And let me get the numbers really quick. Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. And then Darnell Mooney, Calvin Ridley, and then we noted that the free agents, similar to Najee Harris, they're catching up. But like if you wanted to take them above their given ADP, like Devontae Adams' ADP is 40, but quite honestly, I'm very comfortable taking them in the third round. Period. Even middle third round. So these guys, Diggs, same thing. His ADP says 114, but like if you took them in the 90s, I'm fine with that. So, I think there's still some catch up with those free agents, but then our other ones were Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Darnell Mooney, and Calvin Ridley were our honorable mentions. Okay. Now that takes us to tight end. Who's your undervalued tight end?
Boy, this one I debated. There was a lot of guys and we'll mention them in the honorable mention, and, I will say you stole my favorite, so I will. I did take that, but
my percentage really proves it. So
I'm going to go with Brenton Strange. Obviously, he's jumped up since the news of Evan Ingram being cut, but
still ADP of 176 and tight end 22. So
and this is an offense that was actually stronger than people gave him credit for, particularly when Trevor Lawrence was healthy last year. And we just see a situation where I think they're getting a big coach upgrade. Not only did Evan Ingram get cut, Christian Kirk got cut, kind of traded. And then, right now their only replacement's been De'Ami Brown. So for Strange, who in replacing Evan Ingram had solid numbers last year, I think he's just in a much better situation with hopefully rejuvenated Trevor Lawrence, a new offense, just a ton of upside here for him to, um, and he just had 53 targets last year, 40 catches, 411 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns is the big thing that needs to upgrade. But if he gets into that 600-700 yard range, which a lot of tight ends are at, but those touchdowns go from 2 to 6, 7, 8. We're talking about a guy who could be low end tight end in top 10 tight ends. So,
Right.
That's kind of what we're talking about. And I think he absolutely has that upside given the opportunity behind essentially just Brian Thomas Jr. right now in this offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's another one I'm trying to take more of. I believe we just took him in one of our Sibling Showdown live drafts, but he is one I'm actively trying to get more of, and I couldn't agree more. My guy is a guy going a little lower, ADP, still 183, tight end 25, Mike Gesicki. You've been pushing for him since the very beginning of Big Board Open when he was going to the 200s, saying he's going to resign with the Bengals. He did. The money shows they won him, and he's a big piece of this offense. Similar to what you said about tight end touchdown regression, he only had 2 touchdowns last year, 665 yards. Whether the receivers stay healthy or not, he's going to be a big piece of this offense. And I could see the touchdowns, being a lot more than 2 this year. And getting him at this ADP of still 183 is way too low for me. I think, over 20% of him, and I really don't care. I think this is going to be, again, if he stays healthy, he's attached to one of the best offenses that throw one of the most. I just think it's a way to it's like one of the only ways to get a valuable piece of the Bengals offense late. Sign me up. Yeah. And I love Mike Gesicki. Yeah, 21%, and I'm fine taking more.
Well, and here's the thing: like, he's only gone up to like tight end 25. I think.
Yeah.
When he's re-signed, it was like tight end 27, maybe tight end 28.
It's shocking he didn't go up more, actually.
And I get last year he finished in terms of total points 14, and his average was lower. But tight ends are very fluky. You have a lot of 1 week wonders when you sort by average. But he only had the 2 touchdowns, and they were both the same week, actually. His catches and yards, his targets were a little lower, but he's more efficient. His catches and yards were very similar to Zach Ertz and Pat Freiermuth, who finished as tight end 8 and tight end 10. So if those touchdowns, the reason why they had more touchdowns, simple as that. If his touchdowns go to that range, he is top 10 tight end ability, and you're getting him as tight end 25. That is an insane value.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm fine whatever exposure I land at higher than 20, because I just think it's an insane value attached to one of the best offenses in the NFL.
And one other thing I'll say is, early on in the season, people thought, oh, he's only successful when T. Higgins isn't playing.
Yeah,
but that
was a
down
narrative.
the stretch.
Yep.
He was getting a ton of targets, some due to the injury to one of the backup tight ends, Eric All. But also, I think just the offense, they have no defense, so they're going to have to throw the ball. And Joe Burrow, I think, just became more and more comfortable with him, and they found a role for him. And they give him the money to show that they believe in that role.
I was going to say, the deal. What was the deal? Do you have it roughly?
I don't have it.
Wasn't it like a 3-year deal?
3-year, like $9 million a year.
For tight end, that's showing.
He signed similar money, a little bit more in more years, obviously, than Zach Ertz. And again, Ertz, we're high on him also. He's another guy low here. Yeah. Like I said, he was tight end 8 last year. There's no reason he can't repeat that. A lot of it's touchdown based, as I mentioned, but Gesicki is the type. Look, Burrow threw 40-some touchdowns, and he's probably going to have to throw 35 plus again. So
yeah.
Ertz gets 7 of those, 8 of those. He's in the mix for tight end, top 10 tight end.
Gesicki. Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, Brendan Strange, Mike Gesicki are our 2 for tight end. Honorable mention for this, Zach Ertz, the mentioned Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert has been falling with trade rumors. Still think there's a ton of value there, whether he's Eagles or somewhere else. Evan Ingram traded to the Broncos. Price hasn't adjusted enough yet, in our opinion, and Pat Freiermuth. So those are honorable mentions for tight end. Okay, that takes us to 8 players and a bunch of honorable mentions, Steve. Now, of all those honorable mentions, pick one player that you think is worth a wild card to round out our top 10 here.
I'll let you go first. When we picked between us, I took most of the first pick, so you can go first on this one.
All right, sounds good. Mine is Ricky Pearsall, ADP of 72, wide receiver 40. Before the Debo trade, you and I both kind of agreed, like, not all these 49ers are going to pay off at their given prices. But after Debo got moved, it's not like the prices adjusted enough, I think, we mentioned both 49ers receivers. Ayuk, obviously, coming off an injury, you're coming back from a major ACL tear, and could be traded. I mean, there is some smoke to those rumors. So whether it happens or not, I like the ADPs for Jennings and Pearsall and don't think they raised enough after Debo's trade. Again, we need this offense to be much healthier all around than last year, similar to my whole spiel for Christian McCaffrey. But if it is, we saw Ricky Pearsall and what he did week 17 last year. I think he can extrapolate that into a season long and kind of play that Debo role, used in multiple ways. And so at ADP of 72 and wide receiver 40, I love getting access to the 49ers. That's one of the later ways you can get access to a true 49ers piece, because again, we don't know what's happening to Brandon Ayuk. So Ricky Pearsall is my wild card here.
Yeah, I was debating between a couple, but I'm going to go stick in the receiver room as well and go with Darnell Mooney. He's one of my highest exposed guys last year, pretty high on him this year. So going into wide receiver 50. He finished last year in terms of total points, and that's what missing a game, as like wide receiver 40 or 41, but points per game, wide receiver 36. That was tied with Zay Flowers. Sandwiched in between DK Metcalf, Josh Downs above him, and Jaden Reed and Calvin Ridley below him. Those guys are just all going higher. And yes, he's not the number one on his team, but he's a good number two. He showed that Michael Penix has the same kind of skill set, can get the ball deep and vertical to him. He's a spike week guy, and you're just getting really good value as wide receiver 50. I think he's very likely a top 40 receiver, if not a top 35 receiver. So I think you're getting nice little value discount.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I have 15% Darnell Mooney. Obviously, I have 17% Travis Hunter now going right near him. But no, in this range, I just really like the Mooney click. So, and that's what this is all about, right? Is looking for the guys in these ranges, whether it's early, some of these guys were early, or, in the first 5 or 6 rounds, or, maybe a little more true mid rounds, or truly late, like Gesicki and Strange. We're just looking for these guys that are undervalued, that are going to outperform their ADPs, that could have a real strength to your lineup, by just massively outperforming their ADP. So this has been fun and super helpful for me. I'm going to read these again. I won't read all their honorable mentions. Again, we did honorable mentions for each one. So you got way more than 10 undervalued players by watching this. But for quarterbacks, our 2, we each picked one for each position, were Drake May and Dak Prescott. For running back, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. Receiver, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen. Tight end, Brenton Strange, Mike Gesicki. And the wild card, extra bonus one to round out 10, Darnell Mooney and Ricky Pearsall. So that is our 10 most undervalued players that we're clicking a lot. All these guys are ones that we either have, are definitely over the field, high exposure to, or want to get higher exposure to in these last 4 weeks. And that's the purpose of doing this now. We have 4 weeks to go, 4 weeks until the NFL draft, big board season ends, and then we'll reset and the contest will be brand new and with shifting and different ADPs. So we want to take advantage of these prices, and these are the guys we feel are most undervalued. This was super helpful for me. What are the final thoughts for you, Steve?
Yeah, no. And, just to reiterate, like we're hunting for guys who can outperform their ADPs or another way actually to put it is their rankings, like wide receiver, quarterback, whatever. And and if you can identify those guys, that is one of the best ways to get ahead in the game. And you need to hit your early round picks, of course, as well. But for instance, for my success last year, Baker Mayfield, identifying him, it wasn't just in this big board. I had him over 20-some%.
Oh, he was in a lot. You had 15 finals teams, 16
finals teams.
16 finals teams. He was on several of them because he had an obviously awesome season, amazing playoff run. And you identifying that was a late round quarterback that you wanted to be way overweight on was huge.
Yeah. So,
And we talked about Zach Ertz being our hero in both. Last round guy.
Hero. Darnell Mooney, I had him in a ton, and sure, he didn't do anything week 17, but
no, he did not, because he was in my Bulldog, but he was a key advanced rate piece.
A number of those key finals teams.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, no, this is a really useful exercise. We hope you guys have found it useful. Again, hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you're subscribed. Notifications on to the FanSpeak Network. Best ball shows every single weekday. We appreciate you joining us. For Steve, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.